Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be a very energy pumped, packed session. There's some things we're going to say that are going to blow your mind. I got a little bit of competition. That actually timed out pretty well. We're going to blow your mind with some of the stories we have up here. And I will say, I met really just 4 of these women last week, and our conversation was so inspirational, powerful. We actually we just made a plan. We're going to do something in the coming year, okay, and we're going to do it, okay? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the conversations that we are about to have. Just talking about women in the industry, how we got there, kind of the myths about women working in the industry and how we're going to shatter them. And we're just going to talk about how we're inspirational and how we're mentors to others, and just the success stories that we've had. So before we get started, we're going to do a quick introduction. And one of the things that we talked about last week was I was very curious looking at what everyone's doing now. My first question I asked everyone, I was like, what did you want to be when you were a young girl? I'm really curious, like growing up, what you wanted to be. So very interested in some of the responses that we had. So I'll start off introducing Dawn. She is an ex-professional athlete, co-founder of Middle East's largest residential female sports coaching company, Coach Sports UAE. Also a sports startup specialist who, as a little girl, wanted to be one of the golden girls of Zimbabwe, a field hockey player, and a gold medalist in the Olympics. So welcome, Dawn. Next up is Hind Galadari, who was, and I quote, the black sheep of her family, who started out in our industry as a ticket taker and has had some great mentorship and has really advanced in our industry in Dubai, working with Expo 2020, and who is now currently the deputy GM at Warner Brothers out of Yas Island. Next we have Sheikha Monira Al-Sabah, who as a young girl wanted to be a teacher. And currently, she is the CEO and the founder of Play Enterprise, which is the leading FEC in the Kuwait region. She is also the co-founder of Trampo Extreme. Next up, we have Shifa Yusuf, who is a mom turned entrepreneur. She's got a passion for really nurturing the next generation. She is all about creating amazing experiences for families and children with her themed brand entertainment venues. She has just really taken entrepreneurship to a new level. And you know, growing up, she wanted to be a doctor. And we're going to come back to the reason why you're not a doctor. And last but not least, we have Razan Al-Ajmi, who growing up, you have a very interesting story. Growing up, she wanted to go to the gym. She wanted to, go get a workout in. There were no gyms. So she ended up finding a secret gym where, as a female, she could go to. Currently, she is the first female Saudi skydiver. She is also the first skydiving coach here in the GCC, IFSC climbing judge, and the co-founder of Skydive Saudi. So, to kickstart things, I do want to start with Shifa, because you wanted to be a doctor growing up, and I found it very interesting. Why did you not want to be a doctor?
I wanted to be a doctor, I think, because I like the service part of it. But then I didn't like the studying part of it, so which is why I decided I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. But now I have a much better profession, and I'm able to nurture and I'm able to uh, provide service to a much larger audience, which I'm very happy and proud about.
And it was interesting to me because when we were talking about this, you were like, I want to be a doctor, I want to help, but that's a lot of work. But looking at you as a mother and an entrepreneur, that's a lot of work right there. So, I mean, taking on those roles, how did you get to that? What was kind of your path to your entrepreneurship?
So the idea was to be able to provide an enriching environment for my daughter, and that's how the idea came about. And it became sort of a passion because of the research that went into creating that space. And then we opened our first center, which received a lot of love and support and relatability to other moms, which is why we were able to grow to the 11 locations that we have right now.
That's awesome. And why is it important to have someone like yourself who is a mother kind of leading that way specific to the different centers that you operate?
I think as a mom, it's you kind of think about everything holistically. You're not just thinking about profitability. You're thinking about nurture. You're thinking about how to enrich your child, how to give them different stimulations to help them develop. So when you look at and as a mother, you also want to have a warm cup of coffee, which is very difficult to have when you have young kids running around you. So having a safe space for mothers is as important as the enriching space, uh, which which helped in my entrepreneurship journey. And of course, the support that I have in terms of my family, which is very important because um, as new moms, you need a lot of support, and which is what I want to give back to the community to make our centers the community centers so that moms can feel safe having their children run around in orange wheels while having a warm cup of coffee.
That's awesome. And it was interesting because one of the things that we talked about earlier were these myths that everyone have about women being successful and in the industry. And one of the things that you talked about was asking for help. That was such a myth and stuff. And so, how have you shattered that myth of asking for help as a woman?
I think I grew up with a lot of strong women around me. So whatever I wanted to achieve, they were the backing, and I didn't. They were the first helpers, sort of where I would go to first in terms of parenting, in terms of um, anything related to entrepreneurship or business. So I had a very strong support group, and when I got into the entrepreneurship journey, I saw a lot of other fellows entrepreneurs, moms, women who were struggling because they hesitate to ask for help because once it's sort of seen as a weakness, but which is not true. It is a myth that definitely we as women, as moms, we are not lesser than anyone else just because we ask for the help and support.
And I think as women, it's one of the things that we're actually proud of and we do well. We're not afraid to say, I don't get it. Explain this. I need help. Like, it's one of our strengths, if anything, and that's what really helps us progress and do our best. Speaking about myths, Dawn, we had a really good conversation out there too because there was this whole myth about women being in our industry, and as a former professional athlete and a co-founder of one of the largest female sports companies here, I think it resonates what you're doing and where you've come from when it comes to women going into sports and growing up in our industry that has it. So one of the comments that you made as far as a myth goes was sports are for men and by men. And so how did you overcome this kind of, sports are for men and it's by men and that stereotype?
Is this on? Yeah. So my story is quite interesting, unique and different, similar to the Saudi story, I would say too. Born in the early 80s, my country that I grew up in, Zimbabwe, won an Olympic gold medal, their first medal, and it was gold, for women's field hockey. So as a little girl at my first practice, my coach presented an Olympic gold medal. The sheer size of it, the weight, the inspiring story about how they won this, overcoming all the odds. It was very obvious that these successful female role models in sport would impact a whole generation. So yes, I grew up playing hockey, so did many other. It was the most popular sport in our country for girls and for boys, and made it through the representative stages. But it was never under any question that hockey was not, or sports were not for girls, because we had the success at the Olympics, and that just bred a whole new generation of sports enthusiasts. Later on, after I finished my playing career, I was able to complete a degree in sports coaching, and then that was the catalyst into a career for the next 20 years in coaching, development, and mentoring. And in the UAE, where we have our company, more than 50 women are stepping into a male-dominated field and delivering coaching programs, mentoring programs, developing their business acumen, and they are just as good, if not more in tune than our fellas. And yeah, it's been an empowering journey for myself. But what's important about passion is not what you can take away, it's what you can leave behind. And that's the legacy. You always leave the shirt in a better place, inspire the next generation. Yeah.
And you talk about mentorship quite a bit. So what are some of the things that in your current role that you're doing to kind of mentor and inspire other young females that now look up to you and they see that possibility, but maybe they're just unsure of how do they take, their dream and actually make it happen?
That's a great question. Thank you. So being visible, number one, being open to help, open to questions. If it's a young coach just starting out, you carve out the time, because that young coach is tomorrow's leader. They're a role model in society. Or, for example, in one of my most recent postings in the Eastern region here in Saudi, I was the first female to step into an Olympic facility and coach swimming. And one of the young girls there, in fact, the only Saudi girl training in that facility, a young girl called Michelle, I had an opportunity to speak to her one-on-one. And she is the future. She is a role model, just like Razan. She is the first of her kind. She is a pioneer. And just to have somebody with leverage and experience speak to you and say, hey, what you're doing is important. Keep it up. Keep going. That can, like I say, the golden girls from my country, that can impact the whole next generation. So yeah, being visible, being approachable, and then sharing your knowledge and nurturing the next generation.
I like how you talk about the encouragement that you have to give, to the younger generation and to fellow, colleagues, but to the females that are growing up. And Hind, that's one of the things that we talked about previously too. Was, I'm jumping to Hind. Razan was encouragement and really encouraging ladies to try something for the very first time. Who better to talk to us about trying something and being the first to do something for the very first time, being, the first Saudi female skydiver. So I have to ask, because you've got to, how did you get into skydiving? Did you just wake up one day and go, I want to jump out of the plane, or what led it?
Actually, when I tried for the first time, it was just for trying. I didn't plan to be a skydiver. It just like they called me, do you want to try skydiving? I said, yeah, let's try. Honestly, I've been in a sport when I was 16. So it started with the secret place. On that time, like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, there is no female gym in Saudi Arabia. We cannot practice sport. Even that time, I didn't know what's the sport meaning. It's just like moving body, losing weight. What is the exercise should I do? So one day I went to my mother to a salon. She is doing her hair. And I saw a small room with the equipment. Then I asked the lady who worked there, I said, what's this room? She said, it's a gym. You can practice it. You can do exercises. For me, it was, wow, is an amazing thing. Can I come here every day? She said, yeah, you can come and bring your mom to make her hair as well. So the story started from there. And after I understand what's the sport and what the sport gave me on that time, because even on that time, I don't have the freedom to choose what I want to do. So the sport was the thing that I choose it by myself, and I want to be in a deep in this one. After that, we started with the extreme sport climbing, and now we have a federation, the Saudi Federation Climbing, and they are doing a good job with us. Now I'm an international climbing judge. So in September 2021, there was a camp, and they called me that, do you want to try to skydiving, and let's see, maybe you can be in this sport. I say, yeah. And on that time, my leg was broken from the climbing. And I asked them when the camp will start. They said after 1 month. I say, okay, I have time, then my leg can be good, then I can do the skydive. Then yeah, I went and I started the skydiving there.
And when you jumped out of that plane for the very first time, what was that one word that you used to describe that moment?
Till now, I wish if a word can really describe my feelings on that time. But the word I found it is the freedom. Because I didn't feel like the freedom feelings. But with the skydiving, being in the sky, flying with the wind, without nothing, without rules, just flying, and no one can see you, just like fly by yourself. So the freedom is like the things that I can't really describe my feelings on that moment.
And that's when you were hooked, and you said, I want to do this. That is my pathway. But it hasn't. You had to work 2 jobs to get to where you're at now.
Yes. Because skydiving sport is expensive sport. And I was young. I was in university. And I wasn't have that money to start my career in skydiving. And my parents actually didn't stop me on that time. But in the same time, they said, it's risky. We cannot support you. You are our daughter. And I really understand their feelings. So I decided to work 2 jobs in the night and in the day to just get more money and to travel, to make courses, to take the license, and here I am now.
And where did you travel to jump? And I don't want to ruin the story, but tell us about your jump in Russia.
So after I took the license, I put a goal that I want to jump with the Saudi flag. I want to do this. Since when I became the first Saudi female skydiver, now I really need to do something for my country, because I really want even to empower women in this extreme sport. So I've been looking for places that it can train me to make the skydiving and with the flag, because it's a huge flag and it's not easy to take the training and the courses, because the flag is so big and it's so, like, the weight for the flag, it was 6 kilos. So to jump with this one is like in my body, and it was so hard. Then I found the place in Russia. Then I spoke to them that I want to come and jump with the flag. They say, yeah, you can come. we will train you and we will help you on that. But for me, it was a hard decision because, like, I think this before, we always travel with our fathers, with our brothers or with my father. I've never traveled to a place like this alone. But in the same time, I want to do this. I need to do it. I need to achieve my goal. I need to achieve my dream. So I took my decision and I traveled to Russia. And the things that we cannot use the card, we need to take the money only cash. So I need really to count my money every day and how much I need to spend for like 2 weeks. And yeah, like one day I lose all my money, then I just need to back to my country soon. But I jumped. I did the jump. It was an amazing thing, and I'm so proud that I did it. And yeah, there is more that I can do as well.
And the last kind of thing I want to ask, with you bringing skydiving to Saudi, how are you using that to pave the way for other young ladies who want to get into this kind of sport?
Skydiving for me is not just a sport. It's just not to go and jump from the plane and flying in the sky. It changed a lot of my personality. Even in my practical life, even the social life, it's now I can take my decisions. I can take my steps. Like before, I need to ask and I need to think. I feel shy. I'm afraid, and these things. Like it depends the way that we grow and we adapt on. So the skydiving taught me a lot, and this is what I want to do here in my country. I really want especially with the ladies, to empower them in the extreme sport, because the sport sometimes it really teaches how to take the steps in the life, like how small step makes a big step, and it's not easy for us, to be honest. It's not, because we always like depends on our family, on our father, and our brothers, and to make it my own self, it is not easy. And this is what I'm planning now, to open the door for the people to try the skydiving in Saudi Arabia. I want to see people jumping here in Saudi Arabia, and inshallah we will do.
I have 100% faith that this is going to happen, and that all of the ladies you see up here today, we are going to do this.
You have to. You have to.
So speaking of like culture and just different generations that we all grew up in and around, one of the things that we spoke about with Hen was her dream of being a veterinarian growing up. And it was an uncommon...
Short-lived dream.
Yeah, because it was a bit uncommon in society to be a vet. But even what you're doing now could still kind of be viewed as uncommon to some of the older generations. So how have you kind of helped shatter that ceiling of what you're currently doing as an Emirati woman against what maybe your grandparents or your parents did at your age?
Yeah, so you said it at the beginning when you introduced me. I'm a black sheep of my family. And that's because I come from a background of academics. My dad's a doctor, and so I am your typical household where you're either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or nothing at all, right? You got to pick one. And going into the world as a volunteer, just a community volunteer or a volunteer of information, directional, then going into tickets and stuff, it was something of the unknown. I was blessed enough in a family that did take me around the world. We went and visited the theme parks. And so I grew up with this love for theme parks, love for the world of entertainment. And that's something that was instilled within us from my family. But to work in this sector was not something very common or very known in our community or our society. And so when I got the opportunity, and it just so happened it was the right time, the right place, when I got to it, to this day, Dad will still think I stop tickets for a living. Deputy General Manager, sure, yeah, okay, so you do ticket scanning at the entrance? Yeah, sure, let's go with that. Whatever works for you, right? But it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort. I still go home sometimes, after the long hours, after my working days and during a public holiday, which is not very common in our region, right? Working through the weekends, another thing that's not very common. And I come back to the household and we were just chatting with Rizwan and I was saying, they come and look at me and they're like, now, what kind of husband is gonna take you? Right? And that's the question they'll raise. And I'm like, well, when he comes around, we'll have that discussion, we'll figure it out. For all we know, he's probably in the park working along my... So it's a learning scope. There are difficulties, there are setbacks, but it's a learning curve for both myself and my generation, the newer generation, to find their career paths in what we're doing in this industry, in this region. And it's also a learning curve, and we have to understand and appreciate that. That the older generation did not necessarily grow up understanding that this is a career opportunity, that this is not just a job or a passing thing, that you're going to do it for a summer, you're going to do it for a season, you're going to move on. This is a career path that you can embark in and will actually take you places. And it has, and I'm very thankful that it's taken me around the world at this point. Yes.
I can relate. My dad still thinks I'm a lifeguard.
It's okay.
Go figure.
It's not a bad thing.
It's no. Some days I do wish I was just sitting at a pool watching the water. You contribute a lot of your success to having really good mentors. And you as a mentee, you can see how much that you want to give back. And so what I guess, for those of us out there that really want to empower the females in our companies and stuff, and the young ladies that are growing up that look at us as role models, what are some of the things that leaders can do today as mentors to really help prepare women coming into our industry and becoming entrepreneurs and CEOs?
I guess to sum it or keep it kind of small, we're beyond the label of being a woman. Just keep the floor open for us. We'll do the rest of it. You don't have to give us special treatment. You don't have to do a special section or a special project for us to endure in, but just open the door for us. Keep that opportunity open. Don't limit the new position or that new vacancy or no, we feel like a man would do better in that. Maybe, maybe not. You don't know. Keep the floor open. There are women like myself, like the lovely ladies on this floor, that are there and that are looking for those opportunities. We won't really need extra service aside of just open that door, we'll do the rest. And we can show to you that we can do a lot more and beyond what you think we are capable of doing.
And what's one of the biggest myths about women in the workplace that you've managed to bust, and that you see that myth just getting blown up every day?
Well, I grew up being the sensitive one. I've always been sensitive, and one of the myths that's very common among women is that you're very emotional, right? She's a woman, emotional. So what? Okay, I am emotional, I am sensitive, but so what? Because of my emotions and because of how strong they are, my passion is even stronger. My interest and my drive to thrive in this industry or to contribute, like you mentioned, the mentors, to want to become one of those mentors, to be recognized one day, not as a CEO, but rather a contributor to this industry. And that is what I'm looking for. And I don't think I would be that. I don't think I would have that passion for it if I wasn't emotional. I'll be honest, if I was stiff and grit, I'm like, yeah, get the job done, sign off the papers, make sure the procedures are approved, and you're good to go home. Have your cup of coffee and relax. But I'm passionate. I want to see it grow. And it can only happen through my emotions. So that myth of women are too emotional may be true, but that's okay. That's not a negative notion in any way.
And so I want to keep going about passion and inspiration, because Sheikha, you have a very unique story about how, as a little girl, you went from wanting to be a teacher to now, the CEO and founder of Play Enterprises. So I would like for you to kind of just tell us all about your trip to Japan.
Is it working? Okay, so in 2008, I came across a picture on the internet. It was a young Japanese kid playing in a very colorful playground. So it caught my eye. I'm like, wow, what's this playground? It's a lot of movement and colors, nothing I've seen before. So at that time, I was in the retail business doing educational toys. I contacted this company, and at the same time, there was like a kids mall opening in Kuwait, a whole mall dedicated to kids retail, entertainment, kids food, everything. So I thought, you know what, why not? Let me contact them and see if this is something I want to do. I contacted them. They were open to coming to our part of the world. They never heard of Kuwait before. So yeah, so a week later, like took a few days to get the visa. A week later, I was in Osaka, Japan with my brother, checking out this factory, you know. And I went crazy. It was like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's nothing I've seen before. And so the mall being open, this company, one and one together, and I decided to do Play.
All because of a picture. Talk about that inspiration from a picture to establish a strong company like that. One of the things that we spoke about too when it comes to kind of the myths in the industry that you brought up that I found really interesting was going with that gut feeling that we all have. So can you just kind of speak more to us about, you know, going with your gut feeling and maybe a moment in your career that you did that?
Yeah. Okay, so sometimes everything looks perfect, logical, the numbers are right, everything, you know, and you would take the decision, but there's like a feeling inside that says no. And I always believe in that gut feeling, and like most of the time, not 100%, I was right. So this is how we shatter this myth about women. I think women have the advantage of having that gut feeling, and so this is one of the ways, yeah.
And as leaders, how can we support others that have that gut feeling?
Yeah, you give like for my employees, for example, you give them the safe space to express themselves and express how they feel, because sometimes it's not like the manager is always right. So the gut feeling helps, and like 60% of my company is run by women, so we're strong on that gut feeling.
That's awesome. And whenever we talk about, you know, the gut feeling, how does that relate to the trust that goes into operating playgrounds, especially when it comes to women and mothers?
I mean, in the playground industry, I believe like women, they want to see most of the staff as females. They trust them more because we're working with children. So already once you have most of the workplace as women, there's the trust feeling. And also one other thing is like Hind was saying, the passion. When you're emotional, one of the myths, when you're emotional and you have passion, you give more, right? So like I would never have anything in my playground that I wouldn't allow my family members to play on. So it's passion.
Such a great way to look at it too. So one of the, kind of just to end our panel, a question for you all. Knowing what you know now, the paths that you've taken, the clear success that you've had, if you were to look back at your younger self, the one that wanted to be, you know, the vet and the teacher and the doctor, the gold medalist, what would you say to that person to get them to where you're at today? What would be your one bit of advice?
Well, I don't know about you, but we're young already. But in all honesty, the advice I would give the younger self or any young person right now is just, honestly, you glow differently when the confidence you have is because of believing in yourself rather than the validation of others. We spend so much time looking at others and getting validated by others and being, you know, part of that circle, being welcome, being part of something, when really just be confident in yourself, believe in yourself. You may be weird, if that's the word for it. You may be quirky, because I grew up with being called these things. It's okay. One of my popular nicknames that my sister, in fact, gave me, that comes off from inspired by Harry Potter, was Dorcas Maximus. That's me around the house. And that's fine. I own it, right? Believe in yourself, and that's where your glow is going to be so different, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your everyday life, whether it's with the social and family, is just very different. So that's where I would go. Believe in yourself, forget the validation of others. The glow is different.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So Razan and Manira and Hind, they're all mentioning passion and how do we ignite our passion. And believe you me, in the world of sport, there's times where your passion is dimmed. You take a loss, you take several losses. You can't get out of the slump. So my advice for the game of life is you're going to take a couple of losses. Don't ever let that dim your passion. You got to reignite it. And for all the youngsters coming up and the oldsters, we're not done yet. You just keep going, because no doesn't mean no right now. It might mean no right now. It might mean no down the line, but you just don't give up. It might be a half time and you just get yourself up and you go again. So yeah, keep going. That's it.
For me, again, it's passion. Do what you love, and also to have thick skin. Don't take no for an answer. Try and try. And one thing I noticed, like for us as women, it's hard to approach men, because like it has to be during working hours, where like men can discuss business matters over like a football match or over dinner. So it's different.
Something I stand by when I was younger, and what I keep telling myself is, if your intentions are right and if you're doing your best, you'll get there. It's something that keeps me going, and this is something that I would keep telling myself, to my younger self as well.
So the thing that I believe on it is the time. Do not waste the time. Do not wait. Make your chance. Make your way. Create the opportunity. I've been in this level of the skydiving with zero facility in my country. I've been the first Saudi female skydiver and skydiving coach in GCC with zero facility in my country. So do not wait. Just do it and take your step.
I honestly don't think I can follow up with anything that could top what you ladies have brought to the stage today, and really brought to our industry. So I want to commend you all for getting on stage and really sharing your success stories. And I hope you all are motivated by these strong women who are really shattering ceilings and paving the way for other women and young girls to really get into our industry and be just as successful as you all are. So speaking of time, we have 1 minute. If there's any questions from the audience.
Well, I hope the quiet is not intimidation, guys. But I hope that we did a good job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.